So I just got back from a 1,200-mile Oregon BDR trip, riding down to the beginning, riding the whole trip, all 7 sections in 4 days, and then riding home. It was about 1,200 miles on my Suzuki DRZ4s that I've sort of turned into a Suzuki DRZ4s Rally. That was the goal of the build. After that trip, how did the Suzuki DRZ4s Rally do? In a word, amazing. I honestly could not have hoped for it to be any better. I could not have been happier with its performance. But if you're looking for a little bit more specific info than that, well, stick around. Let's talk about how the DRZ4s Rally did on the Oregon BDR. I built up and modded this DRZ4s specifically for the purpose of tackling BDRs and the Oregon BDR in particular. First, if you're curious about the build and everything I've added to the bike, check out the full build video on the channel. Basically, the goal here was to recreate my favorite dual sport bike of all time, which is the Honda CRF300L Rally. If you saw my ranking all the bikes I've ever owned video, that one was #1, but with more power. And I feel like I came pretty damn close with this. For the record, this is a review of this specific build and its specific performance on this specific trip, not necessarily the DRZ4s in general. I have a full DRZ4s review on the channel if you want to get more in-depth with the DRZ4s in stock form. Let's just start out with the good, what I liked about it. It's a long list. First of all, the biggest surprise for this bike was highway performance. This thing is downright comfortable at 70 miles an hour. The fairing or windscreen, whatever you want to call it, does a fantastic job of keeping the wind off of all but the very top of my head. Wind protection is as good or better as my 300L Rally, and I have a very noticeable amount more power on the highway than that bike had. I could very easily get up to 80 plus to pass. I almost hesitate to say it. I dare say I was wrong about the need for a 6th gear on this bike. It would still be nice, I would like to have it, but this thing is as good as any other dual sport I've ever ridden on the highway, even those with 6 gears. So it would be nice to have the 6th gear, but doesn't need it. I'm moving from the absolutely to the take it or leave it category, which is a big change from my initial opinion if you saw the first review. The stock suspension on this bike is shockingly good, pun intended, despite my fat ass and 60 liters of camping gear on it. At one point, I was trying to bottom it out over jumps and whoops, and I just couldn't do it. This route has a lot of technical sections, and honestly, I forgot the luggage was back there for most of it. We did every alternate harder section on the route, 0 issues with me on this bike fully loaded in stock form. I haven't even adjusted the preload. This bike has the perfect amount of power for a trip like this. There's always more when you hit the throttle, and plenty when you need to get the front wheel up and over an obstacle, even without warning. There's always more when you twist the throttle. It doesn't run out like some other bikes I've ridden recently. It's very linear in the power curve. Again, this is amazing considering the combined load of me and my gear. This thing chugged up the steepest, rockiest hills and spun tires in the sand like a 100-pound 6th grader was riding it. It was perfectly predictable and manageable in throttle mode B. So there's 3 modes on this bike for throttle. They're not even fueling, it's just throttle control. So A gives you a spike at the beginning and then evens out. B is a straight linear torque curve or power curve, and C, it's a little bit more subdued for like when you're riding in the rain or whatever. So it's low at the beginning and then evens out. And in B mode, it is perfect. Honestly, my biggest anxiety about this trip before we went was the ride up to Cache Mountain on the harder section. I was up there a few months ago. It's pretty chewed up, pretty nasty. I was super worried about that ride, rocky, sandy, loose, on this bike fully loaded. I had half planned to pull off the luggage and just ride up without it, and was prepared to do that at the first sign of trouble. But when I got there, it just climbed up like it did when I was the only thing sitting on it. It's not my first time up there on the DRZ4s. It's my first time up there on a fully loaded DRZ4s. The suspension plus power combo on this bike is just chef's kiss. I just love this thing. It is perfect for me personally in the way that I like to ride. My luggage setup was great and rock solid, no moving around, everything fit easily, and it was quick to set up in the evening and pack up the next morning. That is the Alpine 60 without the top bag because it ripped when I went to put it on the bike for the first time, so I had that Kriega roll bag in the middle. That whole setup worked great. Didn't even notice it was back there, no weight shifting, kept the weight nice and low. Another big surprise, another thing that I loved on this bike was it was just far more comfortable than I expected it to be. That Seat Concepts XL seat is doing a lot of work. I literally spent 13 hours in the saddle on the last day. We did 2 sections, got up first thing in the morning in Detroit, rode all the way to Hood River, and then rode home afterward. And I was no more sore at hour 13 than I was at hour 5. Not perfect, but not the unbearable sawhorse riding feeling of many stock dual sports. Again, I'm talking about this build. The stock seat on this bike is not that good. but this build with the seat concept seat is really good, very comfortable, shockingly comfortable. And most importantly, in the good column, this thing is insanely fun. The DRZ and I have always had a special relationship, and I 100% believe this bike has the exact amount of power for me while also being mega reliable and easy to work on with basically yearly maintenance intervals. It doesn't seem to matter what I'm doing. I am always smiling when I'm sitting on this DRZ. It wasn't all perfect though, so some of the things I didn't like, some of the things that didn't go as well as I would like with this build on the Oregon BDR. One, I dented the rim. Not the bike's fault. There was an embedded rock in a shadow. I was sitting down and resting and riding pretty fast, and I hit it a glancing blow on the one side, and it dented that rim. So I'm replacing the rim. Must have hit it pretty damn hard. I know exactly when it happened because I definitely felt it, but I didn't notice it till the end of the day. My cruise control wasn't working. You know, I've had some trouble with that, and I think I've figured out the problem. The switch is faulty because it just stopped working entirely about halfway down there at the beginning. So I've unplugged it. I had some trouble with it activating. Again, that's a faulty switch that was activating. So if I replace the switch, I'm sure it'll be fine. So I'm not like blaming Veridian. I think I just got a bad one, but that was annoying because I didn't have cruise control on the way down or the way back. Fuel range could be better. It's a 3.3 gallon tank, which gets me 150 miles comfortably, maybe a little bit more depending on what the MPGs are doing. It was perfect for this BDR. There's no section, I think the longest section is like 136 miles, so I had gas to spare. It just doesn't give you a margin for error. So if we'd had to backtrack or find another way out of the woods, I would have had less gas than I'd like. The other guys were carrying extra fuel, so it wasn't a huge deal, but I would love 200 miles of range, although I don't know how feasible that is. And if I was really worried about it, I would just carry an extra gallon of fuel on the bike, but you are cutting it close sometimes with a 3.3 gallon tank on BDR sections. The vibration at 75 plus is noticeable on the highway, but come on, it's a 400. They all do that. It's no better or worse than any other bike this size at that speed. Honestly, it's way more tolerable than you'd think. I didn't get numb, nothing like that. Pretty good, even riding the freeway for 2 hours of the 3.5 hour ride home. Pretty good. Traction control modes 1 and 2 are completely useless. They're not just off-road, but also on the road because they'll limit your power. I don't know if it's mega wheelie control or what, but you can't even get the bike's full power on dry pavement in traction control modes 1 and 2. So I'll keep it in gravel mode when I'm on the highway, so I have a little bit of protection if that rear wheel starts to spin uncontrollably. And gravel mode works pretty well in the gravel, like it's made for. It'll prevent you from sliding out and low siding if you lose traction in a corner, but that's about all it's good for. You get into sand, you have to turn it off. I got into deep mud and I got stuck in the cow shit mud pit because I had it in gravel mode and didn't realize it, and it was limiting the spin of the rear wheel and I couldn't get through. So I got stuck and had to get pulled out. Gravel mode is okay in specific circumstances when you're riding in dry gravel for a long period of time, but otherwise you might as well just not have it. So I don't really get the modes on this bike, and I don't really get the fueling changes, the throttle modes either. They don't seem that useful to me. So it just seems like extra crap that I had to pay for that I didn't want and didn't use. Also, I would prefer if the ABS was switchable on the fly. You can turn it off the rear and you can turn it all the way off, but you have to stop to do it. I was just hitting the kill switch every time we stopped, unless we stopped for a long time, like at lunch or something. So it was almost a non-issue for me, but when you forget and have to pull over and stop again, it's kind of annoying. A lot of other bikes let you do it on the fly. It's just annoying that this bike doesn't. So what's my final conclusion after a 1,200 mile on and off-road combined Oregon BDR trip, including all the hard sections on the DRZ4s, on this specific DRZ4s? Well, I knew I would love riding this thing on the off-road sections. I was excited for it, but I was dreading the 5.5 hours to the start and the 3.5 hours on the highway home at the end. It turns out this thing is actually kind of fun on the highway and even the freeway. Nobody is more surprised about this than me. I was fully on the no sixth gear is a big fail train, but this trip changed my mind. It's not ideal, but it's barely more annoying than a 300L at highway speeds. It's fine for a dual sport and no worse than its competitors. It's just not better than its competitors at highway speeds. But it's not like the end-all be-all that some people, myself included, have made it out to be. It's pretty okay on the highway, honestly. I told you at the beginning my goal was to make a more powerful 300L Rally, and this build is everything I loved about my 300L Rally, which is, again, my favorite bike of all time, plus 50% extra horsepower and a much better stock suspension. I could not be more pleased with this setup. I still think the DRZ4s is too expensive, which is why I'm not shouting from the rooftops that everybody needs to go out and buy one, but damn if it isn't my favorite bike of all time. This build turned out extremely well. I'm beyond pleased with it. Let me describe the perfect bike for a BDR run based on my experience of doing 7-ish BDRs or 7-ish runs I've done Oregon more than once, obviously. A perfect BDR bike should be tolerable or comfortable on the highway, enough for a multi-hour trip at the beginning and home from the end. It should have enough fuel range to tackle most BDR sections, 150 miles to be safe. Should have decent enough suspension and power to ride difficult off-road sections while loaded down with camping gear. It should be reliable enough that you don't worry about having a significant failure or the bike not starting when you're miles from civilization. The maintenance intervals should be long enough to ensure that you're not doing an oil change mid-BDR. It should have lots of options for mounting and charging a GPS, tablet, or phone or other navigation device. A perfect BDR bike should not have so much power that you can't keep the wheel from spinning on loose surfaces. It should be light enough to ride aggressively on hard sections and pick up on your own if need be. And it should be good enough to tackle most kinds of riding right out of the box without the need for an ECU, new exhaust, new suspension, or other major/expensive mods. And ideally, it would be cheap enough to buy and still have enough money left over for camping and riding gear for your trip. Well, with that one last notable exception, and it's a big one, price is a big one, I've basically just described this DRZ4s Rally build. It's pretty much anything I ever wanted or needed for a BDR bike. I'm beyond happy with it. It's amazing. Before my first Oregon BDR run, I spent months building up a 2019 Honda CRF300L into what I eventually called the BDR Slayer. It was a great bike and I really enjoyed riding it, but it ultimately, at least for me, failed to hit the sweet spot. It was capable, but not super comfortable or fun to ride on the pavement, and the 600-mile suggested maintenance intervals were a big concern I couldn't get out of my mind on that 1,200-mile trip. Still, it was the closest I've ever come to the perfect BDR bike or a BDR Slayer until now. I love this build. This is pretty much the perfect BDR bike for all but the furthest flung, as in I'd have to ride multiple days on the bike to get there, BDR trips. Even then, I can just throw it in the back of the truck, ride it on the BDR, and then circle back to the beginning and drive it home in my truck so I don't have to do multiple days on the highway on this thing if I don't want to. I can't imagine being happier through all the various challenges of a BDR than I was on this bike on this trip. I knew it would do well off-road, but I had no idea how much I would not only not hate, but actually kind of enjoy riding it on the highway. This bike really hits a sweet spot for me, and I'm very glad it's in my garage. Buying it was a very good decision. Curious about the build and all the mods that I've added to it? Again, I have a full build video that you can check out. I'll link it for you. You can see item by item everything I've added to this bike to make it into this, what I'm calling damn near perfect BDR riding machine. Also, if you want to see that trip, the Oregon BDR trip, we had a great time, some fun, some less fun, including getting stuck in the cow mud pit. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss those videos coming out very, very soon. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Oh, thank you.
Excellent!